Good morning to all of you. Good morning to distinguished guests and delegates from 55 countries. A warm welcome to the second edition of the Peace Summit of Emerging Leaders 2020. This morning, we are privileged to have His Excellency Deputy Minister of Culture, Mr. Pramesut Ngapichit, to grace the opening ceremony of the Peace Summit. Thank you, sir. And we have Mr. Felipe Quipo here from the Youth Committee from the United Nations head office in New York, and Mr. Kim Solomon, the Secretary General of Humanitarian Affairs Asia. I would like to begin my opening remarks today with a story that I read a couple of years ago. And recently I happened to read the same story. This is how the story goes. I experienced one Sunday morning on subway in New York. People were sitting quietly, some reading newspaper, some lost in thought, some resting with their eyes closed. It was a calm, peaceful scene. Then suddenly, a man and his children entered the subway car. The children were so loud and rowdy that instantly the whole environment changed. The man sat down next to me and closed his eyes, apparently oblivious to the situations. The children were yelling back and forth, throwing things, even grabbing people's newspapers. It was very disturbing. And yet, the man sitting next to me did nothing. It was difficult not to feel irritated. I could not believe that he could be so insensitive to let his children run wild like that and do nothing, taking no responsibility at all. It was easy to see that everyone else on the subway felt irritated too. So finally, with what I felt was unusual patience and restraint, I turned to him and said, "Sir, your children are really disturbing a lot of people. I wonder if you couldn't control them a little bit more." The man lifted his gaze as if to come to consciousness of the situation for the first time and said softly, "Oh, you're right. I guess I should do something about it. We just came back from the hospital where the mother died about an hour ago. I don't know what to think, and I guess they don't know how to handle it either." Can you imagine what I felt at that moment? My paradigm shifted. Suddenly, I saw things differently. And because I saw things differently, I thought differently. I felt differently. I behaved differently. My irritation vanished. I didn't have to worry about controlling my attitude or my behavior. My heart was filled with the man's pain. Feeling of sympathy and compassion flow freely. "Your wife just died? Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you tell me about it? What can I do to help?" Everything changed in an instant. I am sure the next 3 days, at some point of this Peace Summit, you will experience anger, frustration, and injustice. However, we should never be too quick to judge and jump into conclusion. Be slow, be calm, be mindful. To be part of the peace process, we have to look within. According to Dr. Stephen Covey, the author of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, who sold more than 25 million copies of his book, our paradigm, incorrect or correct, are the sources of our attitude and behavior, and ultimately our relationship with others. We are here to learn from each other. We are here to support one another. And we are here in solidarity for a greater peace. And why is it so important for us to be united? There is a great lesson we could learn from nature. A story of giant sequoia trees, also known as redwoods, or simply known as big tree. The giant sequoia trees are the world's most massive and arguably the largest living organism on Earth. They can grow up to a height of 300 feet and a diameter of 40 feet. This is actually equivalent to 25 stories of skyscrapers, and it would take 20 adults holding hands to circle its base. The big tree can range from 2,000 to 3,000 years old. As you can imagine, it will have to have an extremely deep-rooted system in order to support its sheer size. Interestingly, the big tree actually has a comparatively shallow root system. The next question is, how do they survive? They survive because they live in grove with their root system entangled with numerous other trees. In other words, they support each other. They could not have survived alone. This same applies to us. Peace building is not a responsibility of a certain group of people, institutions, and countries. It is everyone's responsibility. This includes every one of us here at the conference center. The peace process will not be an easy journey. In the next few days, many of us may become emotionally strained from feelings of anger, prejudice, and sadness towards the atrocity experienced and shared by our invited speakers. Even among some of you who have your own stories that spur you to be part of this peace-building movement. For you, believe that whatever hardship that you have gone through because of war, injustice, and violence should not happen to others. You believe peace and not hatred is the key to peace building. To build a more inclusive and accepting community, not war, violence, and injustice. Let us listen with an open mind to the stories that all invited speakers will share with us. What are their why? Their reason that keep them motivated every day? What could we learn from speakers about their peace journey? And how could we contribute towards the process of peace building? Let us listen to our peers and their stories. What could we learn from one another? How could we support each other? What are our roles as a student, as a researcher, as a youth leader, as a brother, a sister, a mother, and a father? As leader, the test and proof are always in doing. I'd like to share this quote from Norman Lear, who is a social activist and philanthropist. To be an effective leader, you not only have to get the group of followers on the right path, But you must also be able to convince them that whatever obstacles stand in the way ahead, whether it's a tree or building that blocks the view, you are going to get around it. You're not going to be put off by apparent barriers to your goal. All journeys are filled with potholes and mines. But the only one we can move beyond them is to approach them and recognize them for what they are. You have to see that it's only a tree or whatever, and it's not insurmountable. Everywhere you trip is where the treasure lies. This is empowering. Remember leaders who have spent their life in achieving peace. Think of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was the primary leader of Indian independence movement and also the architect of form of non-violent civil disobedience that influenced the world. Until Gandhi was assassinated in 1948, his life and teachings inspire activists including Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. Remember leaders who are your peers, who relentlessly advocating for a more peaceful world. Think of Malala. Malala is named as the youngest UN messenger of peace. On October 9, 2012, when 15-year-old Malala was riding a bus with friends on her way from school, a masked gunman shot Malala in the left side of her head. She survived the ordeal and has since remained a staunch advocate for the power of education and has urged actions against illiteracy, poverty, and terrorism. Let us mark year 2020 to be the year which we envision a long-term peacekeeping strategy where one day all dispute in the world will be resolved through dialogue and not war. On the last day of the summit, we are privileged to have the opportunity to take part in the workshop run by the UN Relief Web on mediations and conflict management. Through this workshop, we can appreciate the importance of giving away the us versus them mindset at every level, from small groups to ensure peoples and even nations. Achieving peace through nonviolence is possible. Nonviolence does not mean remain passive and accept injustice. In contrary, it means we resist the notions of complacently accepting the status quo, but without doing harm. Calmness and nonviolence are a sign of strength. May we embark our journey here at the Peace Summit with calmness, kindness, and warmness. Remember the life lesson we learned from a trip at the subway to the tallest tree in the world? Change of paradigm is the first step in our peace journey. Paradigms are powerful because they create the lens through which we see the world. The power of paradigm shift is the essential power of quantum change. Whether the shift is an instantaneous or slow and deliberate process. Remember that we may not achieve much as an individual, but the powerful force for good by a group of like-minded people is unstoppable. Together, we can definitely achieve peace. Thank you, and God bless.